everyone, it's Justine and welcome to a new video. Today I'm going through some of the must-have mixed media products that you can use in clean and simple crafting. Now I know I like to keep things quite simple on my channel when it comes to card making. However, there are some products that you can pull from the art world that are usually used for mixed media to still keep your cards simple, but to kind of give you a little bit more of a variety in your card techniques. So I'm going to be showing you 5 things that I love to work with, and my friend Josefine's going to be showing you another 5 that you can work with. Be sure to stay to the end of the video because the last technique, I myself had never even heard of this before and it's super fun. So let's dive into the very first technique. The first technique we're going to do is transfer gel with foils. And what's great about this is the transfer gel duos, which is a new formula of the transfer gel, actually allows you to foil with and without a laminator. So for all of those of you who haven't invested in a laminator or a ink machine yet, this is perfect for you. Now you just need to spread the gel with a spatula or any sort of palette knife over top of your stencil. Remove the stencil and place it into some warm water straight away so that you can get the paste off that remains on the stencil. And let this dry. I definitely recommend leaving it for a couple of hours. It recommended 1 hour on the package. And when I removed my foil, it wasn't quite dry enough. When it's dry, it will be completely clear. You add your foil over top. Today I'm using some rainbow shattered foils. This is one of my favorites from Decofoil. And you're just going to burnish it with your fingers, so just kind of rub it over top of the stencil. And because the paste is dry but tacky, it will actually act as like an adhesive. So when you remove it, then you'll get foil on top of your stencils. Now unfortunately for me, I only left it for an hour. It wasn't quite dry enough, so I redid this a second time and it worked quite well. Now you can go ahead and finish off your card. For me personally, I cut it down to a circle and I added a thank you die on top. Really love the way it turned out. Remember, you can use this technique with heat as well, and I find if you do leave it longer than the hour, and it probably depends on the climate you live in, then it will stick appropriately to the paste. The next technique I'm going to try is gilding flakes. So gilding flakes I showed off a couple of weeks ago on my channel for the very first time. I find the easiest way to apply them is by adding a double-sided sheet of adhesive. I like the flat sheets that you can get in a variety of sizes from scrapbook.com because then I can cut them down to the size that I need. So I rubbed my adhesive on top of my card panel here. I've grabbed my gilding flakes and I've also grabbed a piece of copy paper. I'm going to fold this in half so that it can act as a little funnel later to put all the excess pieces back in this Tupperware container that I keep on my desk, or actually in a drawer for that matter. I'm going to take off the double-sided adhesive and then I'm going to expose the sticky area on the card panel. I'm then going to go ahead and grab pieces of the gilding flakes. I just kind of sprinkle it all around, and honestly you can just grab big pieces from your jar and kind of just add them in and burnish them with your fingers, but I don't like to leave any waste, so I add a couple of the small pieces and then I added a couple of the big pieces on top. Now I have a variety of colors, gold, bronze, and silver, that I mix together a lot of the times. The mixture I always keep in the side in the drawer. So then all you need to do is you need to just go in with your fingers and just give it a rub here. I've had some feedback on my channel saying I don't need to use as many gilding flakes as I do use, but hey, I just rub them off and reuse the pieces anyway, so it's kind of like no harm done in my opinion. And so you just rub until all the pieces come off and it will only adhere to the double-sided adhesive. To get off any remaining texture, I kind of just run along with my fingernails here and just kind of scrape the rest off of the card. I love the texture that you get from this. It's so cool and it offers kind of like an embossing powder look, but a lot more depth and texture to it. Then you can funnel all the rest back into your little container here and use it in the future. Any excess little pieces or flakes here that I happen to have, I just clean up with my dustbuster. Super easy. I went ahead and I die cut this birthday sentiment, so I used an alphabet die from the stamp market to cut birthday, and then I went ahead and just removed that there, and it'll give me a 2-for-1 card as well. I can use those birthday letters on a second card, and then use these birthday frame here that I cut into the cardstock for a second card. You can see here I finished off the card by adding some black cardstock behind the birthday sentiment and adding the happy birthday die. My question for you today is, what product that have you seen that interests you a lot but you're too scared to try it? For me personally, it was definitely Gilding Flakes until I brought them out about a month ago in my craft room and gave them a try. I was scared of them because they were messy and I didn't really know how to use them, but after watching a couple tutorials online and practicing here in my craft room and not being afraid to make too many mistakes with it, it was just a really lot of fun. And so I want to know, which thing is it that you are intimidated by and you want to drag out of your craft stash soon? Let me know in the comments below. I just have so much fun with that gilding powder, and I had so much fun filming this scene I had to put it in this video too. So my third one is paste of any kind. Recently I did a whole video on how to use pastes in different ways. So I'm just going to recap this extremely quickly here. Now, pastes are very traditionally used in mixed media. It's probably one of the things I see my friends who love mixed media use most often. And I always find that pastes themselves can be a little on the messy side. They take time to dry, so a lot of people who do clean and simple crafting don't really enjoy working with pastes, I've heard. However, what's really cool about pastes is a lot of the times I'll just sit down for an afternoon and I'll make a whole bunch of backgrounds using my stencils and pastes. Keep some warm water with soap off to the side, and I just throw my stencils in as I go. I then let them dry overnight and I can work with them whenever I like. Now this means that I can create a ton of different panels just working with the paste, so I get all the messiness done in one crafting session. The paste I used here was Glacier paste, and when I remove it, it gives me this beautiful, soft, textured look to my card, which is absolutely gorgeous. I ended up finishing off my card with a birthday cover plate die, so I die cut it into my panel twice and I added the white letters over top. For my fourth technique today, I'm going to be doing the Perfect Pearls Resist. Very recently, I did a video on 10 ways to use perfect pearls, including how to apply them. So if you'd like to know how to do that, you can check out that video when this one's all finished. So what I did was I added Versamark ink all over this piece of cardstock. I then added my Perfect Pearls over top. Perfect Pearls is just like a powder. Then going ahead and I'm stamping over top with Versamark ink, pushing my fingers down on the stamp, and it's going to create a resist effect. So what's cool about this is that you can take that powder off by adding the Versamark ink. I can then clean my stamp and do this as many times as I like until I can get that flower really nice and bright, which is a lot of fun. I think this technique is absolutely gorgeous. And in order to set your powder so it doesn't come off on your fingers anymore, all you need to do is mist a little bit of water into the air and run the cardstock through it. As I said, I have a much more detailed guide in my 10 ways to use perfect pearls video, so if you're curious more about this technique and you want to go more in depth, then you can check that out. I finished off this card by adding a beautiful die from My Favorite Things directly over top. I think it's super elegant and stunning when it's all finished. Now the fifth and final technique, which I've been looking forward to showing you this entire video, is the Melted Powder by Wow Embossing. Now this I tried at Creative World in Frankfurt this year, and I was so excited about it. So what it is, it's very similar to an embossing powder, but it's a lot thinner than an embossing powder. It's almost like an icing sugar consistency, sort of. And what I do is I've added this to this aluminum cup here, and I can mix in some embossing powder. So I'm using one of my embossing powders here. You can use whatever embossing powder you like. You can mix in a few colors if you like. It's completely up to you. I'm then going to grab my tweezers and I'm just mixing up the powder inside my aluminum bowl here. You're going to need some molds for this as well. I just got this alphabet mold off of Amazon and it was quite inexpensive. There's a lot that you can get out there. Prima Marketing sells some great ones, and as I said, on Amazon they sell ones even with keychains, or you can get jewelry pendants. All of these will work for this technique. So as I said, it's really amazing. You can make embellishments for your cards, embellishments for tags or gift wrap. You can make jewelry, or you can make keychains and things like that. The possibilities really are endless, so this is super cool. Now what I'm doing is I'm adding my heat tool underneath my aluminum cup here, and I'm holding it with my tweezers so I don't burn my hands at all. Slowly but surely you'll notice the embossing powder start to melt. You try and hold your heat gun in the exact same place for a little while anyway until it starts to melt. Once you've noticed that most of it has melted, you can go ahead then and heat it from the top. But for the most part, you're going to stay on the bottom until you see that white powder disappear from the top. Once you see the white powder pretty much disappear, you can go ahead and just heat it a bit from the top here, and then you can pour it into your mold. Now, if you're using these for cards, keep your embellishments or the amount you're pouring into here quite thin. So these molds that I have here, I can make things up to about a ½ an inch thick. Obviously, I don't want to pour that much in there when I'm using it for cards, but if you're using it for keychains or jewelry or things like that, then you can kind of create that thickness. So you're just going to pour that liquid into one of the molds. You're going to let it sit, and it honestly just takes a minute or two to harden and cool off. So that's really awesome. The other great thing is that if it makes a mistake or you get an air bubble or anything in it, you can just reheat it again and it will cool off as well. And the molds obviously are pretty heat resistant, so you can heat it up right in the mold if you want. So I'm going to remove this A here, and so you can see I have this really fun embellishment for my card. It's a little bit thicker than I would normally put on a card, but that's okay. And so these come out super cool. The possibilities again are endless depending on the colors of embossing powder you use, whether you use opaque or translucent embossing powder. It's a lot of fun. All right, so here's a look at that card here, how I was able to personalize it, and I added a sentiment from my favorite things. All right, thank you so much everyone for watching today's video. Now, as I said, I had made a video previously using gilding flakes, so if you'd like the technique that I showed you in today's video, I have a much more in-depth video that you can check out. 4 different ways to use them and a little bit about what they are and how they work.